I know why you're here. You're probably hoping I'll talk about Bali, right? But Indonesia is much more than a popular tourist destination full of surfers and sunsets. It's actually the world's fourth largest nation, by population, and the largest island nation in the world. Didn't know that, did you? Well, you're going to learn a whole lot more about Indonesia in this video, so stick around. Our story starts 1.7 million years ago. Back then, the world looked a bit different, but thanks to lower sea levels, land bridges connected what we now call Sumatra, Java, and Borneo to mainland Asia. And it was across these bridges that Java man wandered into the picture. Fast forward to about 6,000 years ago, the ice melted, the seas rose, the bridges vanished, and the world's largest archipelago was born. Because these people were now living on islands, the sea became their highway. By the first few centuries, Indonesians weren't simple fishermen, they were elite mariners. They figured out the monsoon winds, those seasonal winds that blow one way for 6 months and then flip. Using these, they sailed outriggers all the way to the east coast of Africa. While sailing, they were trading Persian resins, camphor, and spices with China and Rome before most of the world even knew where Java was. And if we've ever learned anything from history, it's this: with trade comes ideas. Around the 2nd century CE, Indian merchants brought Hinduism and Buddhism to the island. This sparked the Indianized kingdoms era. You had Srivijaya in Sumatra, which was basically the Silicon Valley of Buddhist learning for 600 years. Then came the Majapahit Empire in the 1300s. These guys were the avengers of Indonesian history, mainly because they managed to unite almost the entire archipelago under one flag. But more than that, this era gave us mind-blowing monuments like Borobudur, aka the world's largest Buddhist temple, and Prambanan. Eventually, word got out to Europe that Indonesia had the good stuff: nutmeg, cloves, and pepper. So, in 1596, a Dutch explorer named Cornelis de Houtman showed up. Honestly, that first major Dutch voyage was a bit of a disaster. There was conflict, theft, and mutiny. But even with all that chaos, the profit back in Holland was so huge, it triggered a spice fever. This led to the Dutch East India Company, meaning for the next 300 plus years, the Dutch treated Indonesia like a giant warehouse. They built Old Batavia, which is now modern-day Jakarta, with canals to make it feel like home, while extracting incredible wealth through forced labour. By the 20th century, Indonesians were done with colonial rule. They were ready for a revolution. They just needed a spark. Then came World War II. In 1942, the Japanese invaded, kicking the Dutch out in weeks. At first, the locals cheered, because they thought the old prophecy by a Javanese king, Jayabaya, that yellow men from the north would free them, finally came true. But that was far from reality, because the Japanese occupation was brutal. Despite this, it did prove one thing: the Dutch weren't invincible. So, when Japan surrendered in 1945, two leaders, Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta, didn't wait for permission. On August 17, 1945, they stood on a porch in Jakarta and proclaimed Merdeka, or in English, independence. The Dutch tried to fight back for 4 years, but by 1949, Indonesia was officially free. The road since then hasn't been easy. You had the new order under General Suharto, who ruled for 32 years. He modernised the economy, but at a high cost of freedom. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, the darkest chapter came in 1965 to 66, where a failed coup led to a massive, violent purge that still haunts the national memory today. Everything changed again in 1998. It started with the Asian financial crisis, which essentially vaporised people's savings in a matter of weeks. The frustration boiled over into the streets, leading to massive student protests that the government just couldn't ignore anymore. Under the weight of a crumbling economy and a nation demanding change, Suharto's 32-year reign came to an abrupt end. Since then, Indonesia has pulled off one of the most incredible transformations in the world. It went from a military dictatorship to a proud democracy. It's one thing to make this transition, but it's another thing entirely to do it across 17,500 islands. Because did you know Indonesia is the largest island nation in the world? And the country is basically split into a few big groups that each feel like their own little world. You've got Sumatra, Java, and Sulawesi. Then there's Borneo, or Kalimantan, as the locals call it. As you move east, you hit Bali and a chain of smaller islands that lead you toward the legendary Spice Islands, and finally to Papua. Since the country's so huge, covering about 1.9 million square kilometres, or 735,000 square miles, Indonesia is home to over 285 million people. That makes it the fourth most populous country on Earth. But here's where things get really intense. Indonesia sits right on the junction of four major tectonic plates. It's parked on the Pacific Ring of Fire, meaning the whole place is buzzing with geological energy. We're talking over 120 active volcanoes. Now, I know volcanoes sound scary, and they can be, but they are also like nature's best gardeners. You know why? Because all that volcanic ash makes the soil incredibly fertile, which is why the rice terraces in Bali and Java stay so lush and green. You can see this power for yourself at Lake Toba in Sumatra. It's actually a massive hole left behind by a supervolcano that blew its top 74,000 years ago. Or, if you're feeling brave, you can visit Kawah Ijen in East Java to see literal blue flames glowing in the dark. It's truly like something out of a sci-fi movie. And if you think the land is cool, wait until you look underwater. With about 34,000 miles or 55,000 kilometres of coastline, Indonesia is the heart of the Coral Triangle. It's basically a giant underwater city for 2,000 types of fish and 600 types of coral. In some spots, like the Weber Deep, the ocean floor drops down over 23,600 feet, or 7,200 metres. That's deep enough to hide several Grand Canyons stacked on top of each other. But maybe the weirdest thing about Indonesian geography is an invisible line in the water called the Wallace Line. It runs right between the islands of Bali and Lombok. Even though these islands are super close, the animals on the west side are totally different from the ones on the east. On the west, you've got Asian animals like tigers, elephants and orangutans. But once you cross that line to the east, things get Australian species, like marsupials and cockatoos instead. So it makes Indonesia a one-of-a-kind crossroads where you can explore the world's oldest rainforests and then go hang out with Komodo dragons. That's good to know, isn't it? But now, let's talk about how this massive archipelago actually keeps the lights on. As of late 2025, the economy's looking pretty solid, with a projected GDP of around $1.44 to $1.47 trillion. We're also seeing a growth rate of 5%, and economists expect it to stay right around that same mark through 2026 and 2027. That might not sound like a huge number, but for a country this size, it's actually a really strong, stable pace. Plus, this growth is being fueled by a double threat of massive investments and strong exports. Basically, the world wants what Indonesia has, and people are willing to put their money there to get it. Now, you might be wondering, if the economy is growing, is everyone getting rich? Well, that's where things get a bit tricky. Even though the big numbers look great, the job market is facing some real-world challenges. See, Indonesia is great at creating jobs, but a lot of them are in what experts call low-value sectors. Think basic services or labour that doesn't pay those middle-class wages we all want. In fact, between 2018 and 2024, real wages actually dropped by 1.1% every year. So, while the economy's improving, the people inside are feeling a bit of a squeeze. All right, then what's the plan to fix that? 2 words: digital transformation. Indonesia is currently the heavyweight champion of digital economies in Southeast Asia. It's the largest in ASEAN for 2025. But if you've ever tried to stream a video in a rural village, you know the struggle is real. While millions of people have gained internet access recently, the quality is a bit of a mixed bag. Internet speeds are lagging behind some of their neighbours, and many schools and health clinics are still waiting for a high-speed connection. To really kick things into high gear, the country is looking to invite more private investment to build out fibre networks and 5G. They're even talking about using the national power company's electricity poles to string up faster internet more cheaply. It's all about making the digital foundation strong enough to support high-tech jobs and AI opportunities. The big goal here is to turn that 5% growth into better lives for everyone. So by focusing on digital skills and better infrastructure, Indonesia is trying to make sure the next generation isn't just working hard, but working smarter in jobs that actually pay the bills. But here's the thing, They can't build a better generation for the future if they don't understand what their roots are. That's why in this next chapter, we're diving into Indonesian culture. And here's how I like to put it. Imagine a room where over 300 different ethnic groups are all talking at once in more than 700 different languages. That is the beautiful, chaotic reality of this country. It is a literal melting pot where the national motto is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which translates to unity in diversity. This diversity isn't just a happy accident, it's baked into their history, because these islands have been a trading hub for thousands of years. Everyone from Portuguese and Dutch colonists to Chinese, Indian, and Arab traders has left a mark. You see it in the architecture, you hear it in the loanwords in the language, and you definitely taste it in the food. But despite all these global influences, most Indonesians actually identify with their local culture first. Whether they are Javanese, Sundanese, or Balinese, that local identity is where the heart is. And if you hang out here for any amount of time, you'll notice that everything revolves around the community. They have this beautiful concept called gotong royong, which basically means mutual assistance. So if a neighbour is building a house or a village is throwing a festival, everyone chips in. To them, collective success trumps individual triumph. Because of this, big life decisions like who you marry or what career you pick aren't just up to you. They're usually a family meeting involving parents, cousins, and community elders. This sense of community makes Indonesians some of the most hospitable people you will ever meet. Now, if you're invited to dinner, get ready for a sensory experience. In many traditional settings, you'll be eating with your hands. There's a belief that it creates a closer connection to the food, making the meal taste better. Just a pro tip though, always use your right hand. In Indonesia, the left hand is strictly for bathroom duties, so using it to eat or hand someone a gift is a big no-no. Once you've mastered the right hand rule and the art of politeness, you're ready for the main event, the incredible countrywide celebrations that bring all 17,500 islands to a literal standstill. Take Idul Fitri, for example. It's the huge festival at the end of Ramadan where millions of people participate in mudik, which is a massive migration where everyone travels back to their home villages to seek forgiveness and eat incredible festive meals with their families. So as you can see, even as the country modernizes with gleaming skyscrapers in Jakarta and high-tech digital dreams, those ancient traditions, like wearing batik, their traditional fabric, or playing bamboo instruments, live right alongside the new stuff. You know why? It's because Indonesia is a place that refuses to choose between its past and its future. It's proof that you don't need to be the same to be united. Now that you know there's more to Indonesia than just Bali, what was the most interesting discovery you made about this country after watching this video? Go ahead and tell me all about it in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, you'll love this next one.